Hannah, and I'm back in Seoul, and I would like to share some of my favorite Japanese art books today. So I've actually collected these art books mostly here in Seoul, one in Japan, and one magazine that I actually bought in Japan over 10 years ago. So these have been collected over the years and are some of my favorite books to just refer back to for inspiration or for reference. So let's go into the apartment and go and look at some of these books. Zook, do you want to go inside? No? So this is the first book that I want to introduce. It's some sort of like illustration roster from Japan. I think I bought it in 2021 or 2022, so it was a little dated at the time. And I kind of bought it on a whim. I just really wanted an art book, but it was sealed, so I couldn't really see what was in it. And I just sort of went for it because I just sort of wanted some more inspiration. And I think it ended up being a really good purchase for me because it's not really the kind of artwork that I would have necessarily chosen. It sort of broadened what I like and what, like, I remember I really liked the colors in these ones at the time. And it kind of helps give me inspiration when I'm feeling stuck. So this is a page that I've saved because I really like the movement, and I feel like this could be a cool pattern or surface design. And I also love this little scene with the cat, and it's just so sweet. And it really reminds me also of like Cape Cod, where I just came back from. So I've marked some pages, but we'll just maybe go through some of them first. Like I marked this page because I really liked the composition and framing of this sheep, and it's something that I do every so often, is I kind of like doing flower frames and things like that. But you can see there's a huge shift in style to something kind of like a little naive and rough to something much softer and more realistic. It's beautiful. I really do like these, but this doesn't really suit my personal style so much. But I love seeing it, and I love seeing, it makes me wonder how they made it because it's so soft and delicate. And then there's some that I'm not crazy about, but I think that's why it's important to like have something like this, because it can help refine your style by also knowing what you're not keen on instead of just always seeing what you are keen on. And like this I think is very cool. I love these like naked figures with the puppers and one kitty, but or two kitties. But I don't really know where this would live. I mean, that's what's sort of mysterious to me about this particular illustration book, is these definitely seem kind of like more fine art sometimes than maybe commercial. But not all of them. These are definitely could be like editorial work, so could these. So it's inconsistent in this magazine, or I mean in this book. So let's look at some of the pages that I've marked specifically. So this page I marked quite a long time ago. And I definitely marked it for the plates and I think the food, because I feel like this could be really beautiful if I did in my own style for like a pattern. Same thing with the food, frankly. And I love that they're like done at different perspectives. Like these ones are done flat, like straight above. These ones are done straight from the side. I kind of like that inconsistency, and it's not something that I would have frankly thought of. I'm a little more literal, and I would have done everything at the same angle. This one I really loved a lot because I love room cutouts, but it's something that I always like struggle with perspective-wise. And I think it's so sweet and such a little girl's room, or a girl's room. And then I also loved these abstract line drawings and these months. Look at it, it's January, November, March. They're so cool. So this is a page that I definitely would refer back to nowadays to like get inspiration. Especially these line drawings. I think they're so cool. These are also like a line drawing style that does suit mine a little more closely. And I remember at the time I used a calligraphy pen to draw in this style, and I did a pretty good job, but for the most part I do prefer more bold, thicker lines than these really delicate ones. But I think this house is beautiful and the way she did the bushes. So this is a page I definitely would still refer back to. And I saved this page, which I didn't save before because at the time I wasn't really drawing people, but these days I've been really trying to draw figures and faces, but I haven't been really focusing on the face part. So I really like with these simple line drawings how much expression, like she looks shady, And she looks very like vixen, you know, so much expression she got in just these simple drawings. So I would really like to practice doing portraits. Not only because I enjoy drawing people, but because I think it's something that definitely would add to an editorial portfolio, because faces tend to be something that you see a lot in editorial. And like, this is beautiful. I love this layout. So I look at this book a lot, maybe not for specific style, but sometimes for composition ideas, because I feel like they're very creative or just outside of what I would have thought of. So let's flip around a little bit. I definitely chose this one, I think, primarily because of color, but another thing I'd like to work on are landscapes. And I love this like long landscape where you don't even see the branches of the tree. It's sort of like you're living at this level, you know, you're maybe a tiny person or a rabbit or a little mouse, and that's all you can see, versus something like this, which is a more typical landscape style that we see. So I love this. This is something I would definitely refer back to for composition and sort of untraditional color choice. But then it jumps very quickly to something very different. These colors are very subdued. It's all mostly figure, except for this one. And I love the little paper girl dolls. It's very sweet, but it's not really my style, personally. We flip over here. So I definitely saved this because I love the foxes, of course, and it's sort of like a reference back to like ukiyo-e style woodblock prints and fox processions that you see at that time. But it looks like there's a little salary man with like a Sapporo beer or something, has a star on it. And so I love that. I love the texture because it looks like a traditional woodblock print. But then this artist was able to take this kind of more finished or detailed view and then do much more simple, like almost crayon looking line drawing, but it looks like the same person did it. So I think this is really good inspiration as well. And again, the compositions of something so simple. I tend to be a lot more like more is more with my art. And so it's nice to see more simple compositions sometimes for me, and see that, you know, you don't have to overthink things so much. This is awesome. This is something that I would probably mark nowadays. Again, it's great for editorial, travel, and like maps. So that's something I should keep in mind for myself. Ooh, this page is great. Look at these posters. These compositions are so cool. So sometimes things stick out to you at different times, and that's why it's so nice to have like a book that you can refer back to. You look at it, and sometimes every time you see something new, and that's kind of awesome. This page I definitely saved for these two illustrations. I love these swans. I think this is a beautiful composition and just so soft and warm. And then this one I love because I think it could be a really cool pattern, and I love how they did like a pattern within the trees too, this like teardrop pattern. So let's look at the last one that I chose. So I definitely chose this one because I just like cats. I think there's not much stylistically that I would really copy here, except maybe I do like this framing device they did around the cat. And I do tend to do framing devices, and this is sort of a unique one. It really flows all together in one piece instead of like floating elements. So that's something I would definitely keep in mind. So this is the first book that I wanted to share, and I think it's so great to have a book that's diverse and sort of outside of the zone of what you would maybe typically look at. Now we are headed to my magazine. So I've had this magazine since I was 20, and I'm 34, so 14 years if we can do the math. And I don't think it's in print anymore. It's called ageha, which is, I guess, a type of butterfly, I believe. And they're photoshopped or edited to oblivion. I love it. It's definitely like a gyaru, but maybe a bit more soft gyaru style from the early, well, not early-ish, from the mid, 2010s. That's when that started, or exactly 2010. And I just think at the time I was like, what is this? This is so over the top. All of this like makeup look and everything. I just thought it was so foreign, I guess, to me at the time, so different than anything that I had ever seen before in the US. I wasn't really that familiar like with going to Japanese bookstores at 20. I'm sure this even existed in LA. It's just I had never seen it. and like the huge, what were those called? Circle lenses, which I don't feel like you see as much anymore. And you know, these pages I can't really use for reference because like most of their head is obscured by type. Like there's just so much type and shininess everywhere. But there are later pages where they're like posing. So even here, although she's a little cut off, but I did use some like these, here we go. So I did use these figures for like classes that I took later on for fashion and drawing figures to see different like posing. And different posing on petite people and with very different fashion than anything I had ever seen before. And I just thought it was so much fun, and I still think it's fun. I kept it with me all through these years in like cowboy hat. And I don't know why it gives me so much joy still. I think some of it is just nostalgia because it's something I've just had for so long and it reminds me of when I first went to Japan. But I've drawn like their hair, like floating hair, not even that long ago, just for fun. Because their hair is crazy. And I've also used it for, like I said, poses. And I feel like it goes so against some of our image of like what Japanese art or design is. We're always like, oh, it's so simple and it's subdued and sophisticated. And the thing is, like, any culture is more complex than that. You know, this is one aspect at the time of Japanese culture, and it's not any less Japanese than the really sophisticated, you know, stuff that you might also see, because you do see other like fashion mags where they're wearing like the very baggy, flowy, plain stuff, and they all have like black hair. But then you see this one, like, look at their antennas. She's a naughty teacher, you know it. And then I don't know what's going on here. I think this is just a spa day going on in here. But there was like some risque stuff I remember. I don't know where it is now. But this looks like it's all spa day stuff. I used it to try to like study Japanese at one point, but I was so overwhelmed with just the amount of text that it really just stayed a book for imagery for me rather than a book that I used to study. But look, she's on like American dollar bills. Why? I don't know. Who cares? And I don't know. I don't know if I can really say I get a lot of specific art reference from this except that I love it and that I have used some poses. And it looks like I've even marked pages, but I don't even remember why I marked these pages. Let's see. Oh, I mean, come on. These are like gangster girls. Like, I mean, I love it. And they're wearing like kimono. Look at her hair. Look at her hair. They're so badass. So this is a book I would still come back to. It looks like this is another maybe sister magazine. So I did, what is it? Worldwide Organization of Organic Farming. And I stayed with a family that had, what is this? Yuru Mangetsu night. So they had like, Mangetsu means full moon night. And so every full moon, they had a party. And so this was like the people at the party. I was only 20 and I was very uncomfortable, but I still have this flyer. It still reminds me of that time. I love these hippie girls. It sort of reminds me of the Coachella era of that time, but the Japanese version of it. So, I mean, this is the magazine. You know, it's a pretty big departure from what I just showed you, but I still feel like it's part of what makes me love Japanese art and design is, you know, sometimes you have illustration and maybe it's more high art or whatever, and then you have your quote low art. And I think it's all so great. And I would love to find an equivalent to this like magazine these days. I should look because I think I just bought this at a convenience store at the time. And I remember everybody was wearing like maxi dresses at this time in Japan. And it was not popular really in the US yet. And they were wearing like maxi floral like jumpsuits. It was really quite a time. And I really liked this magazine. And I still think it's fun and crazy. And like, what? So yeah, that's Ageha. And I have no regrets about schlepping this across the world from US to Seoul So yeah, there she is. That's my favorite. Okay, so then my next book that I have is actually something I bought last year when I just visited Osaka. And this is just a really old book from a bookstore. I don't remember the name of it now, but it's so cool. They have all of these it's an original book and they have all of these old drawings in here. And it's just kind of amazing that I could buy it for I think it was under $20. And there's just amazing illustrations. And I feel like the marker work, or not marker work, but the brush work is something that I really am inspired by and I like kind of mimicking more. In my work is much more of this kind of calligraphy, thick, thin line look. I think this is a kirin, or girin. It's basically what you see on Kirin beer. It's like a mythical monster. And I just thought this was really cool and I just sort of wanted a souvenir, and I haven't really used it as much as I thought I would for reference. And I think that's too bad. I kind of would like to draw like those ageha, very crazy girls, but in this style. It's sort of would be a cool mashup, I think, to sort of bring sort of this traditional style to something that is very, well, it's not even modern anymore, but sort of semi-modern. It was from 14 years ago. And these floral designs, these little motifs, I think are so beautiful. And they are something that I would probably directly copy or close to copy, like a motif like this. And then you're trying to add some things and subtract some things, and then you could make a repeat pattern from it. I think it could be really incredible. So this is such a cool bookstore. I would like to make a video where I go specifically and explore this bookstore. They always have different stuff. It's never the same. And so, sometimes they have really cool prints. Let's look at this way. They'll have even ukiyo-e, traditional woodblock prints, selling for quite inexpensive prices. It really shocks me sometimes. But look at the way the water is drawn here, or this sort of flowy cloud. I don't know. But I love the way the line work is in this book. This flower is gorgeous, right? It's stylized, but it's still got the little lumps and bumps, but then the leaves, it's so beautiful. I love it. This is a framing device that I would definitely steal. And that's it. Okay, here it is. Nakao Shoten. So that's the name of this bookstore. And I haven't even brought it back with me yet, but I think I will bring it back with me. I would like to try to bring all of these books back with me. So this is my third book. So now to my last book. And this book I bought at a used bookstore in Seoul, actually. And it's really much more of a how-to book, which I don't usually gravitate towards, but it was super on sale because it was a used bookstore. It's 9,000 won, so it was under $10. And it's about northern style, Swedish modern pattern illustration, kawaiku kakeru, which is draw cutely. And normally I don't buy sort of I said how-to or books, but this one looked very cute to me and I thought would give me good ideas for products that I could maybe do, not just the styles that they did. But it ended up helping me when I was feeling very stuck sometimes. I do think there is a value to having maybe one of these sort of how-to books when you're feeling really uncreative and you just feel down on yourself. Oh yeah, Scandinavian. So it can help you see how you can do something yourself. And so you can just copy it exactly and make it exactly like they did, and you've made something adorable. Or you could try changing it. Instead of having one little nick inside, maybe you add two, and you add a line out, and you change the colors, and you do a few things to it to change it just a tiny bit to help you make it your own, and then you got an adorable pattern. And I definitely did that for a folk flower pattern I made about 5 years ago. it really helped me. Or copying certain just concepts, like this is an outline of a horse with patterns inside, but instead of maybe doing an outline of a horse, you do an outline of a kitty cat, and you kind of copy how they did these sort of flowers inside on a cat. So I think, yeah, so I used these to help me a lot with a flower pattern that I did. And then it can show you how to make your own like little paper bag. So that was really why I originally bought it, but I ended up using it a lot for inspiration. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's okay to have one of these how-to books. Like, this is beautiful, right? And I thought it was such a clever idea. And of course I haven't done it myself, but you could, again, do this with a cat or a different bird, or just change the way this bird is a little bit. And you have your own that, you know, everything is a remix. So I've really enjoyed sort of going through this book sometimes just to steal some ideas or to see something cute. And I love, like, again, seeing how different ways they make their paper art so that you could maybe design your own. Something I'd really like to pursue is making digital products. And I've thought of like designing my own checklists that you could download. And books like these really help give me ideas. Because again, Pinterest can kind of just turn into an echo chamber of the same type of stuff again and again. But when you have a book that has just a compendium of stuff, some of it you maybe wouldn't have chosen. Like, I wouldn't have thought of something like this, where you put like the pear on top. You know, that's not something I would have probably gravitated towards, but it's in here. It gives me new ideas. Same thing with this cutout of this animal. So cool. That could even be like a digital product. You know, you show a how-to, how to cut it out yourself. I think this book is going to help me, hopefully, along the way to come up with some ideas for digital products. So I didn't mark anything in this book because honestly, like, I haven't even really made it through this whole book, even though I've had it for years, because lately I've been pretty inspired, frankly, and I haven't really needed to dig to, you know, go to a more how-to guide to get ideas. But looking at this now reminds me how cute it is and what a good purchase I think it was. So again, I have to say, all of the books and magazine that I've shown today are not things that you're going to easily find in your own bookstore or online. And that's okay, because I think the point of the books that I showed today, and I think we'll wrap it up here, the point of all these books, this book, you know, this book, my old magazine that I still am very partial to, and this book, this illustration roster, is they all have some sort of special meaning and also like fill in holes in different areas for me personally in my art. So for this one, it's much more for like broadening my illustration perspective. This one is honestly probably right now mostly nostalgia, and I think nostalgia is just an important thing to keep alive in your little heart. But I also do use the bodies for reference over the years. This is honestly mostly a collector's item. However, like, it's so cool. So I think if I just brought this back with me, I probably will refer to it more. It's just a matter of like having the space for it. And I haven't had this book as long, so it hasn't developed as much of a place in my heart yet. But this book also, it's like just a little like how-to book, and I feel like everybody could deserve a little how-to book or a little how-to manuals to help get their creative juices flowing. There's an artist that I love on YouTube called Mimi Moo, and I know she provides a lot of like how to draw simple things, and so it doesn't always have to be a book either. It can also just be like an artist that you love. So these are all my books that I wanted to share, and I hope it was interesting. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll get back to you soon. Bye!